one of the things that's been coming out about the shots is some of these governments are starting to push back. Michael Yon has an excellent bunch of material on that. He's done some fantastic interviews.
Now, he's an old green beanie,
he's
though,
an
right?
old green beanie as well, and he's famous for his work as a photographer in Afghanistan. But he's been in Japan, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe his wife is Japanese.
Okay.
But he spends a lot of time over there. He's currently in Okinawa, and this here, Japan bans COVID shots over soaring sudden deaths. I know he was talking about that recently.
What is the date on this?
2024 article.
Okay.
Japan has just banned COVID mRNA shots for public use and called on other nations to follow suit following an official government study. And that's where I got Michael Young's. Yeah. He's the one who told me about this.
I need to get this study.
I know. Tied to the injections to the nation's soaring sudden deaths. Like many other countries around the world, Japan has been battling a crisis of skyrocketing sudden and unexpected deaths since 2021. The standard joke nowadays, of course, being died suddenly. What did he die of? Suddenly.
Sudden death syndrome.
Sudden death syndrome. The issue has become so dire in Japan that the country is now facing population collapse as more citizens are dying than are being born. Okay, that's another whole episode.
That's a whole other episode.
I don't even get me started.
We can call it lack of bumping uglies.
New studies in Japan have now linked the soaring deaths to the injections. However, the latest study has sent shockwaves through the global scientific communities. It shows that the dangerous contaminants in the shots are only affecting those who have received the injections. Scientists have found that COVID mRNA vaccines have now contaminated Japan's blood transfusion stock due to the vaccinated people.
That's across all of the Western world.
Yeah,
there's so many people been vaccinated that the whole blood system is gone.
Now at risk. I can't give blood because I spent time in a part of Asia that is known for a bunch of stuff, and in order for me to give blood, I'd have to go through this huge panel of tests.
Well, if you need blood,
of like weeks,
I'm O negative. I'll give
universal
you
donor.
Yeah, I was called upon.
I can't give. I'm B positive.
Yeah, when I was in Iraq,
yeah,
I was O negative, and when shit was popping off, they would come say, "Hey, can you give us a pint of blood?" I'm like, "God damn it, okay."
Give me some orange juice and cookies.
Give me an IV on this side. Take the blood on this one.
I remember the mandatory blood drive days where you could give blood or you could go on casual.
Yes.
And we'd all dutifully line up. Did that a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Because they give you the rest of the day off. They give you a pass.
Yep.
I'm like, hell yeah, I'm giving a pint of blood to go. I'll put it all back in the form of beer.
I get a license to go fuck off? Oh, yeah.
The risk associated with COVID shots are now being transferred to the other unvaccinated people through blood transfusions. Be aware of this if you or a loved one has to go to the hospital. This is true. The stuff in those shots is now in the blood supply. It's hard to tell. And I've heard that there are some blood banks that are returning away people who are vaccinated.
Yes. I've heard that as well.
Be good to find a couple of articles on that.
Now, here's the thing about the vaccine. If you get the vaccine and you don't get sick and you don't die, more than likely, if you don't get the boosters, once you get the vax, the clock starts.
Yes.
Usually, for most vaccines, after half a decade, it's usually either dormant or out of your system. So there's that supposed theory that, maybe there's light at the end of the tunnel for everyone out there who did get the vaccine. We will find out.
Mando's up to his shenanigans again.
We'll
get to that in the super chats, but Mando's
we'll
up
get
to
to
his
that.
Shenanigans again. I see you, Mando. Over 1 million over 65s killed by the COVID shot, CDC data shows. April 2024.
Wow.
That's funny. The CDC was telling us that the shots were perfectly fine and safe and you should really go get jabbed.
Yeah.
Now CDC data is showing over 1 million over 65 killed by the COVID shots. Gosh, sounds to me like a case of mass murder.
Yes. Now, let's be honest here. When you get over the age of 50, there's a amino acid that builds up in your blood called homocysteine. And it's when it gets too high, it becomes very irritating.
Homocysteine?
Yeah. Well, no. It actually is in your blood. It causes markers of inflammation as you get older. All right. Now you add spike protein on top of that. What do you think is going to happen? You're going to get the blood clots. You're going to get all of the crazy cardiac issues. You wanted to kill these individuals by giving them this shot. This is strictly my opinion.
Yeah.
But everyone out there with a college education has probably had between 1 and 3 classes of biology. And you should understand that, hey, when you're old, you're susceptible to death. When you're young, you're susceptible to death. It's common sense. And it really annoys the shit out of me that common sense is so uncommon. It's literally a superpower in the Marvel dictionary of superpowers. I have the comic books. I've read those things. Common sense should now be in there. It's so rare. That's just my opinion.
You want the scary version?
Yes.
One of the things that a lot of the really sadistic governors like Whitmer and a couple over on the East Coast, whose names I don't remember anymore, did was to put not only COVID positive people, but also violent people into nursing homes. The result was an astronomical number of dead elderly.
Yeah.
My scary version is that the Bolsheviks that are taking over our countries, the Western nations right now, very much want everybody our age, you and me, or older, dead because we're the last ones who have the knowledge of what it was like before then. We're the last ones.
Yep.
That's my scary version, is they're deliberately trying to kill off anybody over the age of 50 because we're the last ones who have any recollection of what freedom looked like
in the 80s.
In the 80s.
Yes.
Yeah. Of what freedom looked like, of what any kind of real liberty looked like, and of what any kind of personal choice looked like. We're the last ones that remember what all of that really looked like. I think they're trying to kill us off.
Yep.
Shocking data from the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, has revealed that over 1 million Americans over the age of 65 have now been killed by the COVID shots. The deaths were recorded since the FDA gave emergency use authorization for the vaccine to be rolled out to the public. The FDA granted emergency use authorization for the Pfizer BioNTech 19 vaccine on December 11th, 2020.
Now, here's a side note. All right. One of the big things about the whole COVID vax thing, and I talked to a lot of individuals who are fighting this battle within the service. One type of vaccine was actually approved, but there wasn't enough in stock, so they were using substitutions.
Yes.
And it is my belief
they piggybacked it on there.
A lot of these people died because they were given substitutions.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement.
Yeah.
I would absolutely agree with that statement. The deaths were recorded since the Food and Drug Administration gave the emergency use authorization. The FDA granted the authorization on December 11th, 2020, which means they rolled it out. They had it ready to go within 8 months.
Yeah, imagine that. Okay, we have gain of function taking place all over the world, and I would say it's happening in the lower 48 as well.
Yeah.
And then it somehow escapes into the wild, and magically we have a solution for that. Get the hell out of here.
Usually takes years to develop.
7 years.
Vaccine.
Maybe you could trim it down to 5.
Again, we'll do a show on pharma. We have an expert in our midst.
Yes.
Following the Moderna vaccine received EUA on December 18th, and the Johnson & Johnson vaccine received EUA on February 27th, 2021. Wow, that's some serious fast tracking. I wonder how much money changed hands there.
Yes.
I'd love to see. We need to go to the FDA and CDC and find those individuals who were in charge at that time and see what their investments look like, because I'll bet you a bunch of them got some sizable stock chunks or suddenly found themselves winning the lottery.
Correct.
The elderly were offered the vaccine first, and the number of sudden deaths recorded in the age group was astounding. During the first 20 weeks of 2021, 150,085 excess deaths were recorded among people over the age of 65.
First of all, this 5-year moving average of excess deaths is affecting the entire Western world.
Yes.
There are some countries out there that are now 20% over the 5-year moving average of excess deaths. It's kind of like, I don't know, maybe they took this poke and smoke and they're just pushing a bunch of people off the cliff into oblivion. That's just my opinion. But that's what it looks like when you look at these charts here. All right, I'm sorry.
Watch this. Excess deaths among people age 65 and over in the USA following FDA approval. Look at the spike. This is mass murder.
That's exactly what that is.
There is no way that this is anything other than deliberate murder. This is too precise.
All right.
This is not an event.
When did the actual vaccine roll out? Was that 21 or 2020?
December of 2020. And then the last one was approved in February of 2020.
Okay.
That's a span of less than 90 days.
Yep. And then you got the boosters. They were tested on 8 mice.
Yes. The boosters were tested on 8 mice. Total excess deaths for the year in 2021 of people over 65 was 448,740.
Yep.
I'm silent right now because I'm trying not to say things that will invite federal agents to our door for little conversations that I'm not interested in having.
Correct.
This means nearly 500,000 more people died than expected who were age 65 and over during a period where excess deaths were supposed to be reduced dramatically because an apparently safe and effective vaccine was being administered to stop a wave of deaths supposedly caused by a deadly pandemic. The year 2022 improved slightly, but still saw a shocking amount of excess deaths, with 371, 466 recorded among those over age 65.
You want to talk about throwing a flying crossbody cockblock of death. They just literally did this to the entire country and Western world.
These are our elderly. These are remote
and they're
folks.
Getting away with it.
So there's this thing called scaphism, and it dates back 2,500 years, and apparently there was a Persian emperor who preferred this, where he would take an individual who committed a particularly egregious act and secure him between 2 logs, hollowed out logs.
Okay.
Think of it as like a canoe, and you put the person in and you put another canoe over the top of it to secure him, right? And then he would take them out to a swamp where he would feed them honey and milk, which would cause them to shit themselves in a swamp, which means they're now being eaten by bugs while shitting themselves.
Yes.
And they would last for days. This was called scaphism. It was a particular form of torture that this Persian emperor enjoyed. Every single one of you who participated in this murder of our elderly,
you deserve that.
I would give you the boats. I would feed you that milk and honey myself. And I'm not even kidding. I would give you the boats if I could.
I mean, this is how angry everyone is. Darren's mother died in one of these homes because of the Coof.
Yep.
I mean, come on.
One of our friends lost her father that she loved dearly.
Yeah.
Because of the hospital procedure, the ventilators.
Well, once
they were over oxygenated.
Well, once they stick you on that ventilator,
you were gone.
You're done. Because they literally will burst your lungs like a balloon.
Yep. I did hear a little chatter during the whole ventilator things that one shift would come on and get the ventilator set where they needed to be to help people breathe. And then the next shift would come in and then just crank them all the way up.
Yep.
And, wasn't there some rumblings about, the hospitals getting payouts for certain
They're not
events?
rumblings. They're getting paid $40,000 a head.
Yep.
It's not rumblings. That's been verified.
Yeah. If it said death by COVID, they got paid.
Yeah, by the government.
By the government.
Yep. Doesn't matter if you slammed headfirst at 180 miles into a bridge on your motorcycle or ventilated your thinking meat.
Yep.
It was a COVID death.
Coof.
Still died from COVID.
Watch Grunt Speak live every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to join Pop for Supporter Sundays, go to redonkulous.com/donate and make a monthly pledge. A link is in the Meat Gazer box.